As if you're using a smartphone, you can still follow along because some of these tools can be accessed through the mobile device. Okay, so I'm going to start off now. Just give me a minute. Okay, so before I introduce the tool and we start hands-on, let's look at what a digital work environment is. The digital work environment, you can look at it in terms of an environment where you're combining different tools, platforms, looking at best practices to enable us, either as individuals or teams, to work efficiently. That's basically what the digital work environment is, right? So all of this is, any explanation we provided in the slide, I'll share the slide after the class. So I won't be using the slide today so that you see me work hands-on. So like I said, we'll be looking at two tools. One is a workspace management tool, and the other is a file organization and documentation tool. So the workspace management tool we'll be looking at is the Notion. And the second one we'll be looking at is how to use the Google Drive. If we have time, we'll look at the Google Calendar. Now, the Notion is going to be the first thing we'll look at, right? Okay, so now let me share my screen so that you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to share my entire screen. Okay. All right. Okay, so if you can see my browser, I just indicate sending a reaction so that I'll know that you can see my browser. All right, thank you for that. So like I said, the Notion is a tool that it's more like a brain. It's kind of like something that helps you manage your time, your schedules. It's kind of like a centralized system for tasks, for notes, for milestones you want to achieve. It's built using databases. So it's kind of like you're storing data and then you're trying to retrieve those data and trying to, use those data to do whatever you want to do. And then lastly, you can look at it as a tool that helps you reduce mental overload, right? All right. So if you are using a desktop, all you have to do is go to just on you search for Notion. Let's see. So you search for Notion on your browser, you're going to see Notion. If you're using a mobile device, you can download the Notion from your Play Store. If you're using a smartphone, just go to Play Store and search for Notion, and then you can download it. If you already have it downloaded, you can follow along. Else, you can also use it on your smartphone, but set your browser in desktop mode so that it will be easy for you to follow along. So if you're using a desktop, you can follow along, and you can also download the desktop. If somebody is saying they can't see my screen, if you can't see my screen, maybe it's network from your end. But if any other person can see my screen, I would like a reaction so that I'll know if it's from my end. Okay, so Eniola, you can exit the meeting and join back, or you maybe change your location for better network connectivity. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to dive right in. So when you open Notion for the first time, so I think this is blocking my view. Okay. So when you open Notion for the first time, you're going to see something like this. See this kind of this environment. This is what you're going to see, right? Something like this. So the first, if you don't have an account, you create an account, right? If you have an account, all you have to do is click on login. So I I'll create a new account, right? So if I click on login, I'll be I'll be redirected to a window like this that will tell me, oh, what do I want to log in with? So for ease, you can create your account with your email address, but most times it's preferable if you're already logged in with your Google account or your browser, is you can just click on Google and it will create the account for you, just sign you up with ease. If you're using a Mac or an iOS device, just click Apple, use your iOS account. If you have a Microsoft account, you just easily use your Microsoft account um, to sign up. So I'm going to use my Google account. So if I click on Google, there's a pop-up window comes up, and then the account that is linked to your browser, that is signed up on your browser, it's the account that would come up. So I'm going to choose that account. And please, if I'm too fast, please just let me know so everybody's carried along. Then I will continue. So you can see that in just one click, I'm already signed up and logged in. Okay, somebody said I'm fast. Okay, sorry about that. I'll try to be slower. Okay, I'm going to be slower. Thank you for that feedback. Okay, so like I said, Notion is kind of like is a tool. So see it as a support brain, right? That's the way I would explain it. I see Notion as a support brain, a tool that helps you manage yourself, your mental work, anything that requires you. Maybe you have too much doing and you need something to, organize yourself. Notion is the tool for it. And for our first demonstration, we're going to be using Notion. So it's kind of like a, a, a system that helps to take note of our tasks, to take notes, to help us look at, oh, these are the projects we want to work on, right? So that's basically what Notion is, and that's what it does. So we started off by creating an account, right? Because you have to create an account. So if you're using a smartphone, just go to Google Play Store and download Notion as the app. If you can't do that, you can open your browser. Now, this is for people using mobile devices. Go to your browser, set your browser, your Chrome browser in desktop mode, and type Notion in your address bar. So somewhere here, so let's say in your address bar, you just type Notion, right? Type Notion as a search bar, it goes. If you know the website, you just type notion.com. If you type notion.com, it takes you direct to the website. Else, you just click on Notion. And if you click on Notion, it takes you to a Google search. This Google search here, the first query, the first result you get from your search query, you click on that, it will take you to the website where you can sign up. So that's what we just did, right? So when you sign up, you are taken to this page. Now, this is the actual Notion dashboard. This is the actual Notion workspace, right? So when you come to this page, you are in your own workspace. So for a first timer, I already have an account in Notion with my previous emails, but this I'm creating a new account so that we'll follow along for those of us that have not used Notion before. And I'm sure some of us have used Notion, we use Notion frequently for our daily projects or our work and businesses. But for the sake of those that have not used Notion before, this is it. So you create the account and then you, you're going to be presented with this environment. Now, for the first time, you can choose, okay, what do you want to use Notion for? Either for work, for your personal life, or for school. Okay, let's choose for work. If I choose for work, which is already selected, I can try to choose for personal life or for school. But let's say for work, and let's click on continue. Right, when you click on continue, it sets up um your environment. But then it tells you if you want to add people to your team. So if you already have a if you're already in a work environment and you want people to work with you on a particular workspace, on a particular, you want to organize a workspace, you can add those people, invite them to join your Notion workspace. But for now, we don't have that, so we'll just continue. When I click on continue, yeah, it tells us, so we're going to be using the free plan, right? Now, you have to, please mute your microphone.
Wọ́n ní digital YYY for all Nigerians. Shine wata colleague na
Please
when
mute your microphone.
computer YY when she get the screen and the system don samu idea she wan for a certificate. This the second class ga she must keep on concentrating ba. Let me just be present dey. In suna tura video wannan wanda aka bi shi. Ni dai kai suna
Okay. All right. Listen, thank you. So I can continue. Okay. So we have two. You have two plans. You can either choose the the free plan or the business plan, depending on what you have. So they have different specifications. If you're using the free plan, which is what we're going to be using, right? You have 1,000 blocks to collaborate. You can use the Notion AI core. So Notion has an AI assistant or an AI agent that helps make your workspace easy to organize. You can create basic form and basic sites with Notion. With the business plan that is paid, or you have a free 30 days trial, you have unlimited blocks. You use Notion AI unlimited. You have more security. Okay. You can't see my screen. I'm sure my screen is visible. If you can't see it, it could be network from your end. So please either change your location or rejoin the class. Thank you. So now these are some of the features of the uh, business plan, but we're going for the free plan. So I'm going to click on continue. All right. Now, if you click on continue, they'll tell you to download the desktop app. So if you're using a PC, you can download it, get the desktop app. It makes it easier instead of having to come to your browser all the time. But I'll stay in my browser. Okay. I will continue with the browser. So I'm going to skip for now. I'll skip this for now. And then it would set things up for me. All right. So and then to create all of these are just what Notion wants to create by default. So we'll just go ahead, click continue, and then it will now take us to our workspace. Now, this part is where we actually want to go to. This is really where we are more interested in, right? Okay, so now exactly. So this is the environment that we are looking for. Now, in this environment, you have the the right side, you have the left side. Let me choose this in a bit to the middle. Okay, so you have this part. This is where you can interact with the Notion AI, right? And start from scratch. Now, this is your menu bar where you have your options to create a new agent, or you want to. It's kind of like where you structure your folders or your workspaces, right? And then this is where you view your workspace, right? This middle part is where you view your workspace. So because of time, look at what we need to look at. So what we're going to do today is we're going to create I won't call it a simple Notion dashboard or workspace, but it's a bit complex but simple, right? Such that you understand everything involved in Notion, right? Okay, thank you. And let's continue. So now let's say you are you have a company, or you work in an organization, and you want to organize your task, right? You have projects to handle, you have tasks to do, and you have notes to take, and then you have goals to achieve, right? So what we're going to do today is we're going to create two workspaces. One is going to be our personal workspace, and one is going to be our personal dashboard, and one is going to be our workspace dashboard, right? So we want to create dashboard. We want to interact with all of these. We want to create tasks. We want to view them in our calendar. We want to view projects. I want to see how these things interact together, right? So what are we trying to do here? I'm going to start off by creating a new space, right? A new workspace. Now, in order to create a new workspace, you go to add new. Already, Notion by default has already created a space for us, a master space. But we want to create a new space in our home space, in our master space. So I'm going to click on add new. Now, in add new, I click on add new. Yeah, so it takes me to a pop-up where I can choose what I want to do. Right now, before I continue, I want to quickly mention something. And also remember, this class is recorded, so while you're practicing, you can always go back and revisit the video. Thank you. So we want to create a workspace or a dashboard from scratch, right? Now, okay, yeah, somebody said it's different from the mobile app. Yes, it's different from the mobile app because of the layout, right? But what I'm going to do for those people that are using the mobile app, I'll adjust when I'm done with this. I'll adjust my screen and quickly show you how it looks like in the mobile app. But just follow along. Thank you. So what we're trying to do here is we want to create an empty page because we are building our dashboard from scratch, right? So I'm going to create an empty page. Okay. Are there challenges? Okay, I can see some questions. Okay, let's take a pause. Oh, is anybody having any challenge so that I don't want to, you know, I don't want to not carry anyone along. Is there any challenge? Please, if you have a question, raise your hand, unmute your mic, and um, state your challenge, please. Okay, okay, no challenge. So I think I can continue. For those people that cannot see my screen, I think okay, so somebody said there are other add new, add new, add new. Yes, exactly. So let me quickly explain that. So here we want to create a workspace where we can add people on it like a team space, right? That's why we have this add new. Now, here is if you're creating a private space where you just want to organize your own personal task, your own
Sorry, we
personal
can't.
work. You can't see my screen. Please, what's the challenge? Somebody should tell me what the challenge is so that I'll resolve it.
That's up now. That's up. We can see now. Thank you.
Okay, you were not seeing my screen.
Yes, I ended before we can't see it.
All right, okay. Sorry about that. I can see some people giving thumbs down. Okay. Mr. Okay, I guess I'm going to continue. Thank you for that. So, so we're going to create a new workspace. Now, remember that the thing is, Notion looks at this workspace in terms of databases. So, for each workspace, you have databases. So, if you have tasks to complete, projects to carry out, notes to take, or milestones or goals to achieve, those things are stored as database in Notion. Always remember that it sees it as database, right? And then one interesting thing about Notion is that it's kind of it creates it has some that is what commands that you can use to create whatever it is you want to create. So, like I said, we are looking at managing our uh, team productivity for our workspace, right? So we want to create a personal dashboard and a workspace dashboard, right? So we want to divide it into four. We want to divide it into our tasks, our projects, maybe some notes, and the goals we want to achieve, right? So now what we're going to do in the new page, we're going to call this page our task. Let's call it our task dashboard. Now our task database. Let's call it our task database, right? Now when you hit enter, it takes you to where you can use your commands. Now in our task, we want to store it as table, right? Because you have different tasks. So these tables, you are going, the way you write commands in Notion is you use the forward slash. So forward slash, and then we want to store it as a table. So I'm going to type table. Now remember that I said for Notion, it works best with database. So you want to view your tasks as tables. So we're going to go to table view as database. So the second option here, I'm going to click that. Now, when I click it, you see that a table is created for us, right? A table is created. Now, in that table, we want to add columns to that table, right? So we have the first thing, which is our title, which is the task name, right? And then the next thing we're going to do is add properties. So the names of these columns are called properties. So in Notion, columns are called properties. Please, what is the challenge? Am I too fast or you can't see my screen?
So I can't see your screen.
Okay. Um, let me close it and okay, just give me a minute while I reshare. Can you see it now? Okay, all right. All right, so we can continue. So some people can see my screen, some cannot. If you can't see my screen, it most likely could be network from your end. Please, you can exit the meeting and rejoin. Thank you. So I thank you for that. I said that in Notion, we want to um, look at, we want to organize our workspace. So we're looking at task, uh, goals, projects, and notes. We want to take notes. So each of these data, we store them as database. Notion sees it as database. Notion sees it as database, right? So now the first thing you do is in your team space, you can decide to do it to your private space if you want, but in your team space, you click on add new, you click on add new like we did before, and when you click on add new, it takes you to this point here in the middle where you choose the name, you name the database. So here we're calling it task, is our task database. That's the first database we are creating, right? So when we create it, the next, if you hit enter, when you create it, you hit enter. When you hit enter, it takes you to a line, a new line, where you choose what you want. Now, in that task database, what do you want to put there? So we're saying that for our tasks, we want to store them in tables, right? And the way Notion works is this. In order for Notion to recognize the command you're putting in, you use the forward slash. Now, the forward slash gives it suggestions as to what you want to do. So, like I said, we're working with tables. I will just type tables. And remember, I'm using the table view tool as a database. That's what I've done. So when you click on the table view as a database, a table like this is created for you. So I don't need this. So a table like this is created for you. Now, each of these table has column. Conventionally, they are called columns, but in Notion, they are called properties. Conventionally, they are called columns, but in Notion, they are called properties. Always remember that. So the first thing is we want to create different properties for our table. for our task database. Now, the first one is the name. So we want to name it. So we can call it any name, but let's leave it as name. Now, the next thing is to add a new property, right? So if you click on this plus button, add new property, you click on it, it will tell you to specify the property name. So let's call it status, right? Status. So I'm going to select status. Now, status has been selected, but this property should have a behavior, like an attribute, right? Now, when you have a task, for the status of your task, you want it to either be a task that you want to do, a task that you are doing, or a task that you've done, right? So I'm going to click on this status. And then a property bar would come up. You're going to see edit property, you're going to see change type, you're going to see filter, sort, and a whole lot of others. But we are interested in edit property. Now, in this edit property, we want it such that we want to edit these properties not started. By default, it has told us that it's not started, in progress, and done. We can decide to leave it like that, but I want something more custom. So I'm going to edit it and type yet to do, right? So let me use caps lock here. Yet to do. I'll hit enter. I'm going to this one, I'm going to say doing, which is in progress. I'm going to hit enter. And this third one, I'm going to say done. Let's leave it as done, right? That is done. We've done that one. So you can either press your escape button or you just click anywhere in the environment to go out. Now, the next thing we want to do is create a new property. Now, that new property would be, let's say, let's set the priority, how serious that task is. So I'm going to call it priority, right? And that priority, it's going to be a select function, right? So let's use it to be a select function. Now, if I right click on it, the next thing is to right click on it. When I right click on it, I would go to edit property. Now, in that edit property, my priority, I want it to be either high, medium, or low. So I'll come here in edit property, I'll go to add option. And I'm sure my screen, everybody's seeing my screen, so that when you're trying to review the video, it's easier. Okay, so we're going to add option. If I click on add option, I'm going to set each of the priority. If you can't see my screen, I would suggest you leave the meeting a bit and then join back in. It could be network from your end, because I'm sure my screen is visible. Thank you. Okay, so we want to set it as either high, medium, or low. So those are, now I can click anywhere in the workspace, and that one is done. Now the next thing we want to do is to select the type of task. Is it a personal task or a work task? So I'm going to create a new property. Just hold on a bit. Let me look at all the messages in the income. Let me see. So someone is saying my voice is breaking. Maybe it could be network from your end, and I'm sorry about that. I think I'm audible enough. Your questions, I'll attend to them shortly. I'm trying to see how we can achieve something. There'll be time for questions. Thank you very much. So Let's continue. All right, so now the next property we're looking at is type. So what type of task are we looking at? Is it a personal task? So I'm going to create new property and then I'll call it type, right? So I'll call it type, and then I'll select it's a select status. So we want it to be something that we can select. So I'll click on select. I'll right click on that status and then I'll go to that property. I'll click on edit property, add the options. So type, what is it? It's either personal or it's work. Now we've done that part. Now we want to add a new property. So let's add date, date property. So we want to add, let's call it date. No, let's call it due date. So like deadline, but let's call it deadline. Yeah. So let's call it deadline. Now in deadline, we are going to select it's going to be let's call it date. Hold on, this one is blocking my view. Yeah, let's call it date. Right. Now in that date, we don't want to edit any property because there we're going to be using the calendar much later for that one. So we'll leave it like that. Then the last property we're going to be adding is a relation property. Now this one is what I'm going to talk about more on Notion, because Notion has this property where you can connect different databases together, right? So I'm going to call this property, I'm going to call this project, right? But for now, we're going to leave it. Let's just leave it. Let's call it relation. Now, when you click on relation, it takes you to, it wants you to link a database, but for now, we're not doing that. So we'll leave it like that, the way it is, right? Okay. Let's a relation. Let's just leave it as text for now. Yeah, let's leave it as text for now. All right. So this, now we've created our first database, which is the task database, right? Now, the next thing we want to create is our project database. We want to create our project database. So like I said, we are working in our team space because for this workspace, we want to share it with our team, right? So I'm going to click on add new. Now in add new, I'll create a new database, right? So now I'll say, let's call it an empty page. Good. Okay. So we are going to see. Okay, hold on. Let me delete. Let me delete this first. Delete this. So let's call this let's call this productivity dashboard, right? Okay, that's what we'll call it. Let's call it productivity dashboard, and let's call this database task database. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, all right. So here, so when you click on this plus sign, this is where you create a new database. That was an oversight. If you click on this plus sign, yeah, so you want to create a new database. So I'm going to call this let's call it project. Let's call it project database. Project database, right? Okay. Now, in that project database, we're going to have something like this. I'll call table, and then we have the table view, right? So now we have a new table. Now the project would have either project name, status, and the deadline, as the case may be. So let's call this project database 2. All right. So we're going to add properties to this. Okay. So now we leave the name, the project, let's call it project name. Let's call it project name. Project name. We'll add a new property, just like we did in the case. Somebody said they are lost. Okay, I'm going to go back a bit. I will use the next one to explain what I've missed, what I didn't explain properly before. All right, so I'm going to add a new property. Now, when I say adding new property, it's basically adding new columns to a table. So in this project, we want to add the status of the project. So let's say status. Now the status of this project, let's put it to select. Let's right click on it. If you right click on it, you have edit property. When you edit property, you add options. Now in that status, we want it to be either active, we want to be an active project, or you want to know if it's a completed, if it's a completed project, right? That's done. Then we are going to add a new property. I'm going to call it the project area. Where is it? So we're going to say area, and then we're going to call, let's change the type. It's going to be a select type, right? So it's going to be a select. So when I select it and then I right click, I'll go to edit property. You add options. You're going to have to choose between if it's a personal project, if it's a personal task, or it's work, if it's a work project, right? So that's then the last one, we're going to select a deadline for it. So I'm going to choose a new property called deadline. And then I'm going to select, make it date. I'm going to use the date property for it. Right. Okay, so that's for this one. Okay, and then we can continue. So in the project database, we have the projects database. So somebody is saying they are lost. Okay, Precious. Okay, let me go back and explain again so that you understand. So what I'm trying to say, what I'm trying to do here is we want to manage our tasks. We have projects, we have tasks, we have notes, and we have goals to achieve. We want to manage all of this. So that's why we're using Notion, right? So here we've created a workspace. When you create an account with Notion, it creates a workspace for you here. Now, under that workspace, you can create another workspace under it by clicking this add new. You can add a new workspace. Now, in each of these workspace, you can create new database in each of them. So we want to create the task database. We want to create the project database. We want to create our notes database and our goals database. And we want to see how these things interact together, how we can use them to manage our daily tasks, how we can, organize ourselves based on our task, our projects, milestones, whatever it is we want to achieve. So that's what we're trying to do. So I said that Notion works more interestingly if you use it as database. Okay, can see some people are still lost. Okay, let's before I continue, let's take some questions. If you have a question, please raise up your hand so that you can ask your question. Okay, please read one, ask your question, or mute your mic and ask your question.
So, firstly, I would say that we can't see your screen. And secondly, my question goes was, peradventure, maybe probably, if you have, like my own understanding, if you have a maybe particular project for you to work on, being assigned to do, that's when we need, that's when commissions comes in to play for you to assist, like maybe timely basis, or maybe you are working on a
Yeah,
particular, maybe you have to maybe a daily activity. Maybe, I've done this part, I've done this part, I've done this
yeah,
part. I think that's what the mission is all about. Thank you.
yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I would attend to you. I'll attend to that now. Any other question? Any other question? Okay, no hand is up. So let me attend to Mr. Ridwan's question. Okay, yes, you can. If you have a project going on, you can use Notion for that. Quite all right. But we're looking at is a point where you have a lot going on. You have projects. Inside these projects, there are tasks you want to achieve, right? Inside these tasks, there are specific pointers you want to look at. Oh, I want to take note of this thing, right, and keep it. And then you have, this date, I want to solve this problem so and so time. And then you want to separate your personal projects or task from your work task. That's what we're trying to do. So I could easily have just created a simple to-do list and we just play around. But that's not what I want to do. I want to show us how Notion works all around, how you can create different workspaces and how this workspace can interact with each other. So what we want to achieve by the end of the day is that if you have a project, right, and that project has tasks, you said, okay, I'm doing this task, I'm going to complete this task. It will reflect in that particular project that is assigned to that task, or that particular task that is assigned to that project, right? That's what we're trying to do here. So I don't know if you get if you get what I'm trying to explain. You can use Notion to manage a particular project, check your deadline and all of that. But then you can also use Notion to manage more complex tasks. Your project included, notes included, goals you want to achieve included. So most of these things can be connected together. But then you want to be able to manage them. That's why it's looking like it's complex. I don't want something whereby we do it. If I give you a task now, you say, oh, this one is not gotten to this point. So I hope that's okay. But I'll try to simplify it. I won't make it as complex as possible again. So thank you for that. Let's continue. And somebody asked me what's Notion for. Yeah, Notion is basically used to manage our task, manage our daily life. So if you have a project or things you want to do and you feel like you don't have the time to use your brain to organize all of these things, that's where you use Notion for the person that asked. So I'm going to share my screen again. Or I'm going to unshare my screen and share my screen again, please, one last time. And I'm very sure my screen is visible because I can see that I'm sharing my screen. So if you cannot see my screen, it could be network from your end. Okay. So I'm going to continue. Okay. I want to confirm that we can see my screen. All right. So I've started sharing my screen. So, okay. Okay. So now let's continue. We've been able to create our task database. We've created our project database. Now we want to create our notes database and our goals database. I'm going to try to hasten up a bit so that you can see what we are trying to. Because when you see what we're trying to create, that's when you really understand what we are really doing, right? So uh, create a new. I'm going to create a new. Uh, database. All right. So I'm going to create what you call the notes database, right? And then I would call the table view like I did with the previous ones. Now in the table view we have the note title. So I'm going to call this I'm going to call this the note title, and then I'll add a property, and that property I will call it category, and that category will have a select type. Then and then we're going to call in that category we have what are we trying to do in our notes, what are we taking note of. So we're either doing meeting, or we're maybe learning, or we're working, right? Working notes, whatever. So that's what we have. So these are the things we have here. Then the last one is we want this to be related to something. So you're going to add the last one, which we're going to call this um related project. So let's say related project. Now it's going to have a, like I said, I'll come back to explaining relations, but let's leave it as text a bit. And then when we're done, let's call in the notes database, let's call this notes database. So let's call it the notes database. Yeah. So all right. So that we have. So I'm going to create a new, the last one. So let's call it goals. So I'm going to call this goals. Goals database, right? So and then we're going to call a table. Now the table would look like a table view, like we did before. I don't want to be explaining over and over again. So a let's call it database, and then let's call this the goals that we want to achieve, the goal name. Then we are going to add a property. That property, we're going to call it the time frame. Time frame. We have a select type, and then we're going to add some properties to it. Those properties would either be those goals, are they daily goals or weekly goals or monthly goals, right? Then we're going to add the last one, which is the status, right? So those goals, call it status. Let's do it the select function. Or let's edit the property, and then we'll add the status. The goal, you have restarted it, or it's in progress, or it's completed. Right. And so now what we've done, created our we've created our databases. We have no business with this part anymore. So what we're now going to do is to create either a personal dashboard or a work dashboard. Now, the personal dashboard will now be where it will be drawing data from each of these databases. If we have a task now, if you assign a task, when you go to your personal dashboard, you see, okay, I have a particular task, so and so time, So that's what we're going to do now. Just follow along with me and you get what we're trying to do. So we've been able to create, in our productivity dashboard, we've been able to create our task database, our project database. We've been able to create our notes database and our goals database, right, in our productivity dashboard. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to create our personal dashboard, right, and then our workspace dashboard, right. So now what we're going to do here is we will now see how we can relate each of these, how we can relate our task to our project. Now let me go back to the relation I was talking about. Now if you go to our task database, if you open this task database, you see that we have a property here called relation. We want to relate it to something. So we're going to relate it to, let's change the type to relation. Now we're going to relate it to our project. We're going to relate it to our project. So if I click on the project database, it takes me, so I'm going to put it to two-way relation, and I'm going to type projects, yeah. Yeah, so let's put it as projects. Let's add this relation. Okay, so we've related it now. So the next, or the other one that has a relation is the notes database. So if we go to the notes database, in the notes database, you're going to, in this related project, we need to add we want to change the type to a relation. So if you change it to relation, the thing is, we want to connect these different databases together so that they can communicate. So if you have a note, you know that this note is for this particular task. Or if you have a project, you know that this project is for this particular task. Or if you have a task, you know that this task is under this particular project. That's basically what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to connect this one to project too. So I'm going to save in the project database. I'm going to connect it. I'm going to change it to let's say, let's call it projects. So I'm going to add relation, right? Then, so those are the relations that we have. Now, we're going to do in the, so when we're done with these relations, the next thing is for us to go to the add new. In this add new, we're going to add a new um, dashboard. Let's call it personal dashboard. So I'm going to call this personal. I don't want to create. Let me create it inside. Let's create it. Let's create it. Let's create it inside the the productivity dashboard. So I'm going to delete the trash. Yeah, so in the productivity dashboard, I'm going to create it. Yeah. So let's call it personal dashboard, right? So now I'm going to call it personal dashboard. So now if you get a personal dashboard, you want to link the particular database. So when I hit enter, I'm going to type linked. So you're going to see linked view of data source. Now this is what we're looking for, right? So if I click on linked view of data source, it would show me the particular this is I'm looking for. So now that, hold on, okay, so you see that there's a database that you want to link. So we want to link our personal. Okay, what's the challenge? If you're having a challenge, unmute your mic and state your feedback, please. I can see some thumbs are down. Please, what's your challenge so that I would resolve it? Can't you see my screen? Somebody should respond, please. Okay. All right. I guess I'll continue. Thank you for that. Okay, so we want to connect the personal dashboard. So we're connecting it, we want to link it to our task database. So we'll link it to our task database, right? And when we are done, we're now going to filter it, right? So when you come here in our task database, you're going to see filter. This icon here is called filter. This one icon here, this is called filter. So when you click on filter, you want to check if that particular task, if it's a personal task or not. So in filter, we're going to go to type, and in type, we're going to select personal, right? We're going to come here and say new filter, and then we're going to select status, and we're not going to select anything. So because there's nothing yet, so we'll just leave it as empty, right? That one is done. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is when you're done, we'll close this. All right, so we'll close this, and then we'll go to the personal dashboard, right? and then click on this. We're going to add, then we're going to say link view from data source. Now we're going to link just like what we did before, but in this case, we're linking our goals. So I'm going to come here and then I'll type goals. So our goals database is what we're linking, right? So when we go to our goals database, if you click on this filter icon here, we're looking at the time frame, our goals. What time frame are we looking at for personal? This in, well, let's select weekly, right? So when you select weekly, that one is done. Then we are going to done down. Then click on come here, and then you select another command, and we'll call it linked view of data source, right? And then we select our notes, the notes database. When you select the notes database, we are going to click on filter, right? So we filter it, and then we're going to select category. So for our personal dashboard, mostly learning. Let's select learning, right? Okay, that's this. We're done with the personal dashboard. Now the next thing is for us to create the workspace dashboard. So I'm going to create the workspace dashboard. Sorry, the workspace dashboard. And the workspace dashboard, I'm going to create the linked view of data source. So we're going to link the databases we want to add to our workspace dashboard, so that if you have a task that is a personal task, you are going to go to your personal dashboard and you're going to see those tasks. So I'm going to select the project task. So I'll come here, I'll type project, the project database, and then I'll go to filter. In filter, I'll go to status. Status, I'll select active project. So let's select active, right? Then I'll add another filter, and then I'll go to area, and then I'll go to work. All right, so that it will know that, okay, this is for my workspace, not personal dashboard. Then I'll come here, I'll do linked view of data source. We want to link our task database, right? So I'll come here, now type task. So when I click on the task database, we will have so it will draw that table here, right? And then I'll click on filter. And filter, I'm selecting that I want to know what kind of task that is. So I'll go to type. In type, I have to select that is a work task. I'll add another filter and select the status of that task. So we are not sure if it's done, so we'll leave it empty, right? So that is it. Then I want to connect another relation. So I'll do linked, yeah, link view of data source, right? So I'll come here and then I'll select task, and then I will come to filter, and I will go to deadline, right? So I would let me see. Let's put it as is empty. So let's just leave it empty for now. Then we have the last one. Let's say links view. So we want to look at our notes, which notes we are, because we created 4 database: the task database, project database, notes database, and goals database, right? So I will go to the notes database and then I'll filter to know the type of notes I'm taking. So what category of notes is working notes. Let's select working notes. So that one is done, right? So that's basically what we want to do. So now that we've gotten that one, we can now close. So now if you look at this, we have trying to okay, if you look at this now, we have our productivity dashboard, which is it's housing everything. Then inside the productivity dashboard, we have created different databases. We have created our task database. We've created our projects database. We've created our notes database, where we'll be putting all of this. And then we have our personal dashboard. And then we have our workspace dashboard. Now, let me explain what I mean. So if I go to my task database now, let me demonstrate something for us so that we'll see. If I go to my task database and then I add a task, let's call that task. I want to go to work, right? And the status of that task, let me set the status of that task to be what I am doing. And then the priority, let's set it to be medium. And then let's set the type to be going to work is a work task, right? So let's set a deadline. Let's make it tomorrow, right? So okay. No, this is not even the point. So now let's leave this. All right, so we've done that. Let's add another task. Let's call it go to the gym. Sorry. Going to the gym. I'm yet to do it. So priority is low. What is a personal task? Let's make it 29th, right? Okay. So now we've added 3 tasks now. 3 tasks, 2 tasks, go to the work and go to the gym, right? So now if you come to your personal dashboard, you see that it's added here. You're seeing that in your personal dashboard. If you open your personal dashboard, you see that, oh, this task, you want to go to the gym, yet to do priority low, personal. Now, this is where it is. So it's connected here, right? Now, if you go to your workspace dashboard, in your workspace dashboard, you have go to work. I don't know if you notice anything. When you go to your personal dashboard, you have that, oh, you have to go to the gym, and it's the priority is low, right? Now the difference is that you are not this is where in your database, this is where you put tasks or things you want to do or projects you want to do. Now, if you want to view and organize those projects and view how you come to your dashboard. So let's say you are working. If you come to your workspace dashboard, you only see things that are related to your work, the timeline you have. So let me add some things so that it will make more sense. So if I go to my project database, right? My project database now, and then I add a bit. Sorry. And then I add a project. Let's call it work project, right? And then the status of that project is an active project. So let's set it as active. What is it? Is it work? Yeah. So let's set the deadline to be tomorrow, right? So right. So I want to add another project. Let's call it learning. Let's call it learning. And the project is it's an active project going on. So it's a personal project, and then the deadline is, let's say, the 11th of next month, actually. So we have that. So let's go to our notes database and let's add a note title. Let's say go go to the class. I'm just coming up with generic stuff or random stuff. So category, these are learning notes, right? So okay, let's see, correct something. So if I set this relationship now, hold on a bit. So I'm going to let me change this relation. If I set it to project, let me just add the relation. Okay, all right. So I go to my goals database. In my node, let me add something else again so that it makes more sense. If I add go the go to be car, let's just add something like this, and let's say category is working notes. Doesn't really matter. And then let's go to our goals database. In our goals database, what are our goals? Assignments, right? So the time frame is let's make it weekly. Then status in progress, right? Then add another one, assignments or meeting, and then we have, let's make it daily, and then let's say completed. Okay, so we've added some things in our database now. So if I go to my personal dashboard, if I go to my personal dashboard now, see how this things make sense. So if I go to my task database in my personal dashboard, I see that I have I need to go to the gym, right? It's a personal work, and this is the deadline I have. In my goals database, I have assignment to do. Now, this is only for my personal. I only see it because in my database, the way it's related is only in my personal dashboard. So it's in my personal. These are the personal things I need to do. Like my personal dashboard, I have assignments to do, and the time frame is weekly. Status in progress, right? Now, in my notes database, I have to go to the class. It's a personal project, right? It's a learning category. Now, if I go to my workspace dashboard, if I go to my workspace dashboard, you see that in my task database, I have go to work, all of these, my notes database, go to the car, because it's a working note, so it gets added to my workspace, right? So that's the interesting thing about is that it has organized all of these random tasks, all of these things I need to do into what is personal or what is for my work. So anytime I go to my personal dashboard, I see the things I have to do the personal things I have to do. If I go to my workspace dashboard, I see the things I have to do that are work related. So everything is a bit scattered because it's just random activities I'm coming up with. Now, there's something else we can do. We can add a calendar to this, a calendar. So what we can do is, if I come here, let's come to this productivity dashboard now, and then let's do, okay, hold on. So if I come here in my personal dashboard, right, and then I come here and then I add something called calendar view. So there's a calendar view, right? So if I add calendar view, my calendar pops up. Now, what is interesting about this one is that you can make this calendar interactive. Something is blocking my screen. Okay, so let's see. So this is my calendar. Nothing has been added to this calendar. So if I go to this calendar and then I go to sorry, yeah. So I go to this property bar. So here, this property bar here, or this settings bar, and then I go to property visibility. You see, these are the things I need to add. Right, so let's see. This doesn't work here. So let me add it to, let's see, calendar view. So let's see, property visibility. So let's add date and tags, right? Okay. So let's see. If I have this one now, let's see, the date for each of this one. If I have go to the gym, there's no deadline. So let me change this to date. Yeah. So all right. Then let me come here. You know I have deadline. I'll change it. All right. So yeah. So let's. All right. Okay. So we can now view. I go to my. So this is where my productivity dashboard I've created, right? Now we have the task database where we can add different tasks. Now, if you add a task, what is interesting about this is that if you add a task, depending on the priority or the status of that task, it gets added to either your personal dashboard or your workspace dashboard. Now, you're not the one to organize it if it's a personal project or a work project. If you go to your project dashboard, depending on the relation, so any project you add, depending on the status or the area of that project, it gets added to either your personal dashboard or your workspace dashboard. So when you're done adding all the things you want to do, your projects, your notes, your goals, everything you want to achieve, if you come to your personal dashboard here now, click on your personal dashboard, you now see only the things that are um only the things that are for your personal work. That's where they are. And you only see those things and say, oh, these are the things I need to do for my personal work. And you see the timeline. If you go to your workspace dashboard, you see only the things that are for your workspace. So that's the interesting thing about Notion. It just helps you organize things, helps you manage your task. Oh, if this task is for this, it helps you. Okay, this is this. Any task you add randomly, it helps you organize it. All of that was done because of the logic we created when we were creating our database, the relation. So you're adding, okay, this is for this project, this is for that project. So that's basically what Notion is about. So what we've been able to do here is we've been able to create 4 categories of information or database, right? And then we've added activities. We created our task database, our notes database, goals and projects database. And then we added random activities in those. We filled each of the columns. Now, what Notion did was to organize it for us, to put the ones that are personal work in our personal dashboard, and then the ones that are for work in our workspace dashboard. So that's now there's so much more. This is like the most basic thing you can do with Notion. There's so much more you can do. We can even decide to edit this. We can decide to in our productivity dashboard, we can decide to add an icon, right? So let's add an icon here. We can decide to add a cover photo or cover picture so that it makes more sense. So we've added a cover picture, right? So we can, when we come to our personal dashboard, sorry, our personal dashboard, we can decide to add an icon to it. So let's add anything we want to add, or we can add a cover. Right. So it's just the way how you want it. Right. So that's basically what we've been able to do. Right. That time is far spent. So the next, I'll take questions now, and then the next tool I would most likely look at is the Google Drive. It's a pretty much simple tool. It will take our time, but I'll first of all take um, our questions. So oh, somebody said it's complicated. Okay, please ask your questions. Okay, any questions? So for those people using mobile devices, okay, uh, okay, Asadik, ask your question.
Okay, good evening. I've been trying to follow up actually. What's the basic difference between a dashboard and a database? What's the difference between the both?
Okay, the difference between if I get you clearly, a dashboard and a database, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the thing is, how do I explain it? The difference, the fundamental difference is that your dashboard is like your where your data is viewed. So all those manipulations we're doing, where you view your data, where you do all those filtering, where you interact. In fact, where you interact with your Notion environment is your dashboard, right? Now your database is where your data is structured and where it's stored. So now the difference is that for us to know, okay, let me explain this way. We saw two things. We saw the first phase where we were creating tables, right? And in those tables, we're adding properties, and we're editing those properties, right? And then at some point, we started adding things like go to the gym, go to class, go to work, all of that. That is a database, right? We are putting data in there and we are trying to structure it. Then the second phase is where we now saw two things. If you click this part, you see that you have a table called something called personal dashboard. There you see that data that you put in your database was now brought for you to see if it's your personal work or if it's for your workspace. So the dashboard is where you interact with your workspace or your the information you're seeing, where you interact with it, where you perform some filtering. That's your dashboard. Then database is where you store your data, the tasks you want to do, where you put them, just load them in there and structure them. That's the fundamental difference. I hope you got um you got the explanation.
Yeah. I got you right now. Thank you very much.
All right. Any other um any other challenge?
Yeah, so my question is that after creating dashboard and database, how do the notion come to play and how do we make use of it?
I don't Can you repeat the question?
I said after creating a database and a dashboard, how do
Yeah.
the application or the notion come into play and how do we make use of it?
How do we make use of
How do we make
I
use
didn't
of
hear
the
you clearly. It's cracking. Repeat your question, please.
I said after creating a database
Yeah.
and dashboard,
Hmm.
how did the notion come into play and how do we make use of the database and the dashboard that we created?
Okay, all right. No problem. Let me explain this. So, like I said, I said that the way I see Notion is kind of like a brain, like the brain that helps to support your brain. So you have too many tasks or you have things you want to do, but then you don't have the time to begin to um you know arrange, organize all of these things. So now the idea is this: anytime you have an idea, right? You've created your database. Anytime you have an idea or something, a note, something you want to just jot down quickly, or a task you want to achieve, you just immediately go to your database and add a task, right? Or add an idea that you add it, right? You understand? So now that is what the database is used for, right? Now, if you are done, you just added that notes in that table, and then you want to go and check, okay, okay, just like the way you have you're sitting down and then an idea pops to your brain and then you write it down in your book, right? If you don't write that idea down in your journal or something, you forget it. And then you try to remember, oh, what was this I was thinking? You cannot remember it, right? But even if you write it down in your journal, and then later on when you come back, sometimes it's difficult to make sense of what you've written down. Now that's where Notion comes to play. The first part is your dashboard, it's like your brain, where something just comes in and then you put it there just to make sense of it. Now the next part is your dashboard. So by the time you've put that information in that database, and then you come back, oh, okay, you go to your dashboard, you see that that idea or that note or that thing you've put has been organized. It could be that, okay, for today's task, maybe your dashboard, you have in your task database, you have the name, the status, the date, and then you put, okay, go to class. The status, the priority, is it high or low? And then you say, okay, today's date. Then when you go to your dashboard, you now see that it has been added to your task for today. So it reminds you that, oh, okay, this is what I have to do. I have this task to achieve today. So that's what Notion actually helps you do. It's helping you act as your brain and at the same time as a journal that helps you organize ideas or things that you can easily forget. I don't know if I explained it for you. Okay. Any other question? I can see some hands are up.
Okay, please answer. My
Okay. Good
question is
evening.
that
Yeah. Good
when
evening.
you
Your
are
question.
creating the table in the database, there were several options. There was table and there was table view. I think we choose the table view. So what is actually the difference between those options that we have when we want to create a table?
Okay. If I get you correctly, you mean difference between the table and the table view. When I was trying to
Yes,
create
sir.
the database, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So is now what I'm trying. What let me explain it this way. It's if you have a database, right? Okay, let me explain it. A database is like a container that has different tables, right? That's the fundamental how to explain it. The fundamental way of explaining a database. In a database, you have table, right? Now, the reason why I chose the table view is because one, we want to we want to put in tasks or small data in there, and then at the same time we want to view those tasks, those data, right? So the table is like the actual database itself, right, where your data is stored. Now that table view is kind of like a way to display that result, right? So that's why I chose it. So let me do a simple demonstration again. If I do this, let's see, if I come here now, let me go to my Google database. Just 1 minute, please. It's taking some time. Okay, so if I do table, right? So remember I said that we we want to create a database, right? Now one is like an actual table, like how do I put it? An actual table, like you just have a table there, the way you have your spreadsheets, your columns and rows. But one is more like a database that you can relate. Like I said, we want to connect multiple tables together. We want to relate, oh, a particular task under what project is it, or a particular note under what task or project will it be. So because we want to perform some relation, that's why I chose this table um, view, right? Now this one is just to add a simple like table, like okay, let's see it as a content. There's nothing interactive about it. That's the difference. I hope I have answered your question. Like somebody, if your hand is up, please unmute your mic and answer and ask your questions,
Okay.
please.
Okay, yeah. So after you set up all these tasks now, after setting up all these tasks now, does Notion will
Yeah.
Notion notify you? Does it have any alarm or something? Or you still have to go back to the app to check on the task you have to do?
So now, now let me explain something real quick. If I get your question, let me, if you can repeat it.
Okay, I'm
If
asking
Notion
basically,
notifies,
yeah, you on your task, like the task you have ahead.
okay. So the thing is, first of all, like I said, Notion is it helps you organize your tasks as they are as random as they are. It will help you organize your tasks, right? Now the thing is, creating the task alone, like just creating it and doing it, does not officially mean that you'll be notified. Though. That's just the thing, right? But you can, how do I put it? You can set, there are ways to do it. You can add it to your calendar. I think add it to your calendar, and in that calendar you add a reminder. So it's now the calendar. So in a particular table view or database, you have due date or you have deadline. And in that deadline, you specify the dates, let's say 28th or 29th of March. So 29th of March is 2 days from today, right? And then you add it to your calendar. So in Notion has, if you can see my screen, Notion has a calendar view. I'm trying to be calendar view option, right? And then you can also embed Google Calendars to your Notion. So what notifies you is the calendar. The calendar notifies you. Or you have a particular task you need to do. But originally or ordinarily, creating your tasks and your database and your dashboard does not officially mean Notion will notify you. I don't know if I've answered your question. We need to proceed to the use of the drive, the Google Drive. Any further question? Okay.
Please, I
2 minutes.
have a question. You said that after you show us this desktop phone, you will show us with the app version. For those of us that are using Android phone.
That's I will do that. Let me quickly demonstrate the use of Google Drive before because I'll use. Hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you
Okay.
now. I was asking a question earlier.
Yes, let me quickly do a demonstration on the Google Drive so that we keep to our curriculum. It's curriculum. Then I'll explain how we can use Notion on the mobile devices. Right. Uh, so I'm going to the next thing I'll be looking at is I'll answer your questions. Any other person that has a question, I'll answer your questions. The next one is the drive. So the Google Drive is how you can share files, how you can organize your files as a team or as a work environment, share your files among colleagues, among friends, or among classmates, as the case may be, right? That then you can work seamlessly. So the one of the tools used is the Google Drive. It's a very popular tool. A lot of people use it. So in order to use the Google Drive, so please let me share my screen. Let me share my entire screen. Okay. One minute. Okay, I'm sharing my entire screen. Okay. So we want to, if you use the Google Drive, so most times it's easier. It's like it's an app in um, the Google community. So if I open my browser, you see this icon here that has um, 9 dots. So when I click on it, you see apps by Google. So you're going to see Google Drive. You're going to see Drive here. Or you can go to your search bar and type drive.google.com, right? Then when you click it, um, it opens for you, right? So basically, the interfaces you have where your file explorer, where you play around with your file, your drive, and then you have the files that you have here, right? So what we're going to do now, at least before the class comes to a closes, we're going to create a folder, a shared folder. I'm going to share it amongst ourselves, and we interact with that folder. So I'm going to come here. All of these you really don't have any business with any other thing here for now. So we're interested in this one on the left hand side. So we'll click on new. If you click on new, there's a drop down. In that drop down, you have new folder, file upload, folder upload, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slide, Google Videos, Google Forms, more, Google Collabs, Google Drawing, etc. So, but now we want to create a drive that we can share amongst ourselves. So let's say, for example, I have a drive. I want to put my notes there. I want to put some of my documents and assignments there, right? So I'm going to create a folder. Now that folder, I'm going to call it a new folder. I will call it productivity tools, right? I will create it. By the time I click on productivity tools, it gets created. All right, so I've created a folder called productivity tools. Now, in this folder called productivity tools, I'm going to create a subfolder. Now, that subfolder, I'm going to call it, let's say, notes, or I'm going to call it, I don't know, anything I want anyway. So let's call it, let's open it, you double click it, and then you right click, and then you click new folder. Now inside the productivity tools folder, we're going to create another folder, 3 new folders called notes, right? See that it gets created. Create another folder called, or let's just get 2 new folder. Let's call it assignments. Right. So we've created 2 new folders, assignments. Now in our notes, we want to create a file where we can collaborate as, classmates or peers in a learning community and share ideas, right? So I'll go to notes. I'll open this folder called notes by double clicking on it. And then I'll right click inside of this folder environment. And then I'll click on Google Docs. See Google Docs here. When I click on Google Docs, it takes me to it opens another tab where I have a word processor environment. Here I can write my notes. I can say notes, sorry. I can type notes on productivity, right? I can do that. Now that's it. But the important thing about, or the pointer or the selling point for Google Drive is ability to collaborate, because we want to be productive, you want to work in teams, you want to be faster. So let's say you have colleagues that you have people that you want to work with. All you have to do is to share this file. So I'm going to click on this button called share note on productivity. So I'm going to save it. Yeah. When I click on share, a pop-up comes out. Now, if you have people, your friends or um workmates or colleagues you want to share that particular file or want to work with as a team, all you have to do is to add their request their email address and add their individual email addresses. Then you can maybe or you can generally open it as the case may be, right? So if you add somebody, you either add the person as this is where you add roles. So after giving access to teammates or team members, the the option here is to select the role, either as a viewer, as an editor, or as a commenter, right? So an editor means the person will have access to manipulate the document. A viewer means the person does not have access to manipulate. The person can only read the document. But if you don't give access to anybody, they cannot even open the document. So that's the interesting thing about Google Drive and Google Docs. It's secure and it allows for easy collaboration and faster work um, practice. So now that's that. When you click done, you copy the link. You come here and then you click on copy link, right? So now when you save this thing, if you come to your Google Drive, you see that under notes, you have a folder called a file called notes on productivity. See, in my drive, let's go back to my drive. If you come here, you're going to see my drive. If you click on my drive, you're going to see a folder called productivity tools. If you double click on it, you're going to see two folders called assignments and notes. When you double click on assignments, you're going to have the note created. Right. So with this note now, you can share it amongst your peers or your colleagues who they have access, and then they can add their own notes or their own input, right? Now, even on the drive, you can copy the drive link and share it across to people. They can have access to that drive, and then they can create folders in that drive if they want to. So that's basically what the drive, the way the Google Drive works, right? Because of our time is already up. I most likely in our next class I would continue from where I stopped. So not just enter something new. We're going to finish up where we stopped and then move on from there. Then for the people using mobile devices for Notion, it's okay. Chine, Sandra, it's not too clear. Please, can you unmute your mic and just tell me exactly what is not clear so that I'll know how to help out.
All right, sir. Please, I didn't get very well how you add people and when it comes to sharing the link so that other people
Okay.
can work
Yeah,
with. I really don't understand that.
Okay, let me quickly do that again because I'll be giving you guys a task to do, an assignment to do. So it's important I clarify that. So like I said, I'm sure you got the part where you can create folders and subfolders, right? I'm of that assumption. Then you've created it inside the folder. So let me go to my assignment folder. So I'll go to my drive here on the left-hand side. I'll go to productivity tools that I created. I'll go to assignments folder. Let me repeat what I did so that you understand. I'm going to right click inside of this empty environment here. You're going to see everything I needed. So you're going to see Google Docs. So I want to create a document file that I can share with colleagues or learning peers. So I'll click on Google Docs. It automatically redirects me to a new page where I can create the document. So I can decide to leave the document blank, right? Or I can decide to put it, maybe make a title for it. Sorry. Where is it lagging? Okay, I can decide to give it a title, right? That's it. I've created the first document. Now let's assume I want to share this document among a group of three. We are three people in a team. I want us to work together, right? I'll first of all save the document. So let me see. So I'll come here. See this share. You're going to see about an icon and the drop down where you have share. For now, it's if you watch what's written here, it's written private to only me. But you want to share it amongst a team of three people, right? Amongst a team of three people. So I'm going to click on it and it will tell me to save first. So I'll leave the name as title, or let me say team title. Let me just save it as team title, and then I'll save it. Now it gets saved in my drive already as the author of that drive. Now I want to share it amongst people. This it works two ways. It works two ways. It's either I get the email addresses of those people and add them to this, see this point here. I either get their email addresses and add them, or I do this. I come here, change this link to from restricted to anyone with link. Right? When I click on anyone with link, then I'll change the row. You see here, I'll change the row from viewer to editor. By changing their rows to editor, I have given them access to adding inputs to the document. When I'm done, I'll copy the link. See here, I'll copy the link and then click done. That is it. So anybody I send that link to automatically has access to that document, right? Now, when it comes to the drive, right, I can decide, let's say, the entire drive. Now, let's add productivity tools here, right? I'm going to come here, let's say assignment. I'm going to click on this and I'll click on share. This is, I'm sure this is blocking a view. So here now, you're going to see that these three toggle and the ellipse, three ellipses here. I'm going to click on it. You're going to see share. Right. This is crazy. Okay. If I click on it, you're going to see share, and then you're going to see share. When I click on share, it takes me to a pop-up. Now in this pop-up, I'll do exactly what I did with the document file. So I'll change the access from restricted to anyone with link. If I don't have the specific email addresses of people I want to add, I'll make it change it to editor. So when I change it to editor, anybody that has access can add new folders or subfolders, and then when I'm done, I'll copy the link and share across my team members. So that's basically what you have to do. That's basically how you can do it. I don't know if you got the whole thing.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. So our time is fast spent. For the people that are using smartphone for Notion, because of our time, what I'm going to do, I'm going to send a detailed step-by-step approach to doing what we did, because I know it can be tricky using the mobile device, but it's almost the same thing if you really understand what to click or what to type, right? So I'll do that by tomorrow, and the recording for the class for this class should be ready by the end of work tomorrow, right? And the slide I was supposed to use, I'll share it across, right? Then your task and assignment will be dropped across tomorrow too. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. I don't know if
Attendance.
you have... Yes, the attendance, Miss Esther should attend to you on that, and on the group chat, I think someone should attend to you on that for the attendance on the group chat. So if you're in the group chat, you can send in your notification or type a message about the attendance so that they will send you a link. But I'm sure the link is on the in-call message here. All right. I don't know if there are no further questions. I think it's time I wish you a good night and we meet again on Monday. And hopefully it gets better. And yeah, if you have feedbacks, always drop it on the group so that we can improve. It's through your feedback that we can improve our teaching methodology or approach or anything, right? Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.